Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2005 movie titled The Persifier. Please be advised that there are spoilers ahead. A gang of Serbian rebels kidnaps Dr. Howard Plummer, and notifies a Navy SEAL squad of an upcoming mission to recover him. After receiving the instructions, they fight the attackers, and Lieutenant Shane Wolf successfully frees Howard. As they approach, he shows him a picture of his children and introduces them to him, but he exhibits little excitement and urges him to proceed. Shane sustains injuries before they can resume their trek, and the professor's counterattack results in his death. Shane recovers from his injuries 2 months later, and Bill Fawcett, his commander, informs him of a new mission. He intends to collect his squad, but Bill stops him, claiming it's a top-secret assignment that he can't tell anyone about. As Shane prepares for the expedition, Bill informs him about the discovery of a safety deposit box bearing the professor's name in Zurich. He receives instructions to stay at the professor's home in Bethesda to protect his children from the enemy and search for the secret project, the Ghost, while the rest of the crew, including the professor's widow, prepares to travel in search of the box. Julie, the professor's widow, greets Shane upon his arrival. She introduces him to her children, Kate, Zoe, Seth, and Peter, and promises to safeguard them while she is away. Shane is astonished to see 4 children, but he soon finds there are actually 5 when the nanny introduces another, Tyler. After an initial talk with Julie concerning the children, he begins his duties and installs the security systems throughout the house. Julie kisses goodbye to her children and departs for Zurich, but not before ordering them to obey his demands. She worries about leaving the children alone, but Shane and the nanny assure her that they will receive care during her absence. He returns to work, but when he hears one of the children screaming, he hurries over to the living area, only to discover that everyone is going about their usual routine. Enraged by their carelessness, he demands chastisement from them, but they seem unconcerned. At night, he notices someone outside and approaches a man named Scott, but before he can ask any questions, Zoe appears, revealing that it is her boyfriend Scott. A neighboring Korean couple, Mr. and Mrs. Chun, become enraged by the buzzing alarms at the house and admonish him for disturbing their peace of mind, but he apologizes and assures them that it will not happen again. Zoe requests that he let Scott into the house, but he instead instructs him to do push-ups. She becomes enraged with him, fearing that he may cause Scott to end their relationship. He asks her to tell her mother about it because she is worried about them, but she refuses and continues to shout at him for spoiling her weekend plans. Shane decides to teach and train them after discovering that they aren't following his instructions. The next morning, he violently wakes them up at 6 a.m. and begins directing them to gather around the dining table and don special security bracelets. He soon discovers that Seth is missing from the conference and violently breaks his room door to force him out. However, Seth emerges from the bathroom and begins ranting at him for breaking the door. After observing this, Zoe and Seth decide to get rid of him and spill some oil on the steps, but poor Nanny is the victim. Meanwhile, Jolie and her team arrive in Zurich and discover the box, but they are unable to obtain the passcode to open it. After sliding down the stairs, Nanny decides to go, but he refuses because he cannot care for the children alone. As he fights with her to keep her away from the door, Jolie calls and says she might need to stay for a few more days. He does his best, but she bites him and flees the house, leaving him at the mercy of the children. He informs them about their mother's extended stay, but they begin telling him about their concerns. His anguish begins when he is forced to care for Tyler while Kate continues to bother him with her foolish questions. He orders breakfast for the kids the next morning, only to have it ruined when Tyler becomes terrified by Kate's eye-crossing performance and Peter flips the table upside down. Meanwhile, he receives a call from Zoe and Seth's school, asking him to meet with their vice principal. After hearing the call, Shane packs up and heads to school in a minivan with everyone. He arrives at the school on time and introduces himself to the vice principal, Dwayne Murney, who begins criticizing the students for missing classes. He continues to brag until Principal Claire intervenes and takes him outside to look over the school. She sends the children to their lessons and informs him that Jolie has already described the problem to her. She also offers him permission to stay at school and care for the children. He saves Seth from the bullies, but Dwayne thinks he should learn to defend himself. Shane tries to help Seth out of the predicament while the vice principal teases him, but he refuses. Claire approaches him and attempts to speak with him, but he receives an emergency alert and rushes out. He follows the signal, only to discover that the children have dumped their wristbands in the underground sewers. He returns to the house in a horrible state and displays the message to the children, but he does not say anything this time because of Claire. Shane returns from his shower to find a large group of kids at the dining table making fun of him. Kate tells him they come every week and will stay until 8 p.m. He reluctantly agrees to let them stay but requests that they obey his instructions. Some boys bully Kate at school, but he promises to protect her. Shane returns home and discovers Zoe and her friends partying and requests that they stop immediately. They flee the house, but he orders them to clean and perfect it. While making them clean it under his supervision, he discovers a CD with the word ghost on it and hides it in his pocket. Zoe argues with him once more, pleading for him to leave them alone. However, before they can respond, an assault on the house occurs, prompting him to order the children to lock themselves in a room. He fights back and forces them to leave the house. After disposing of them, he returns to the chamber and assures the children of their safety, prompting them to rush to him for protection and plead with him not to abandon them. In response to Seth's questions, he informs them that they are after the CD, but he assures them that they will not obtain it. Finally, the children welcomed him into the house and agreed to listen to him. The principal summons him back to the school and informs him that Seth has dyed his hair and missed wrestling practice for over a month. Claire informs him that Seth and Zoe have been experiencing psychiatric issues, and she needs him to speak with them to find out what is going on. When he returns from school, he asks Seth about wrestling, but he tells him it's not what he wants, and that he's only doing it because his father wants him to. Shane rushes to Seth's room to talk to him but discovers that he has fled, so he begins chasing him, urging Zoe to look after the children. He pursues Seth and ends up at a local theater, where he discovers he has been preparing for a play, but the director leaves the set after being dissatisfied with their performance. He approaches Seth, who initially doubts his enthusiasm, but reassures him that he will support him and allow him to achieve his goals. Shane decides to take over as director of the musical after Seth expresses worries about the director. He bonds with the kids by reading bedtime stories and dancing to put Peter to sleep like his father. The following day, he urges Zoe to drive the minivan, knowing she has always longed to do so. At school, he encourages Seth to confront Dwayne and inform him that he is quitting wrestling to work in a musical production. He is upset that he has given up wrestling, but Shane agrees to wrestle with him. The struggle begins, but he quickly kicks him down, which proves to be the final step in gaining the kids' trust, and they all begin to follow his orders. He teaches Zoe to drive, assists Seth with his acting, and trains Kate and her pals while caring for Tyler. As he dances for Peter at night, he thanks him and calls him Daddy, expressing his love for Shane. Once again, Kate and her friends face bullying, but this time, they retaliate, employing strategies they've learned from him to defeat the bullies. Julie eventually discovered the password, Angel, inscribed on her ring. They succeed in obtaining the box from the officials and discover a two-pronged key inside. Shane returns to the house and approaches Zoe, who is sitting alone in her room. She says nothing at first but eventually opens up about missing her father and expresses her sentiments with him. After a while, Julie calls him to inform the children that she will be returning home shortly. They are all overjoyed to hear the news and begin arranging a welcome home celebration for her, as he sees them gradually returning to regular life. The following day, he uncovers an underground vault in the garage and phones his office, which informs him that it requires a two-pronged key to open. Julie returns home, and the kids surprise her with a party. Shane leads Bill to the garage, but before they can reach the vault, his neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Chun, ambush them. To his astonishment, Bill unexpectedly joins them. They keep the children and Julie inside the house, where Bill admits that he works for North Korea. They take Julie with them and attempt to access the vault, but are unable to do so due to the advanced security system. After some time, the children free themselves and awaken Shane, who urges them to seek assistance from the authorities while he searches for their mother. They flee in the minivan, but Mr. Chun pursues them in Bill's car. Shane arrives to assist Julie and discovers that Peter's dance is the key to getting inside, eventually opening the lock after beating Bill and Chun. After passing outside the school, the children lure the police to the house, but Mr. Chun appears and pulls a gun at them, demanding that they hand over the ghost. Shane distracts him by inviting Jerry, his pet duck, to attack him, while Claire defeats him. He thanks her for assisting him, but Kate interrupts them. She sends him a photo of his siblings so he never forgets them, and she shows her love for him. They all attend Seth's musical play, in which the vice principal, Dwayne, plays a nun. Shane tells Claire about his retirement from the Navy and his new role as a wrestling coach at the school. He congratulates Seth on his performance. Thank you for watching. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have Have a nice day.